Hey folks, welcome to Bullets and Brass. Today we are talking about tools related to firearms. And this is kind of general. I'm not getting into any details of this task or that task. The first one specifically is kind of more oriented toward reloading, but it's handy in general anytime you're got to check something. That is a caliper. Now, this one is a very inexpensive one from Midway. It is meant for reloading. Really not a super precision tool, but for the money, very good. I've had this one quite a while. It has held up. No complaints. I managed to crack the glass when I probably like a month into owning it. But again, for the money, these are excellent. You can certainly buy high-end ones. For most purposes related to firearms, unless you're manufacturing things, the high-end ones have limited value. If it's something you already own or have a purpose for otherwise, feel free. The next item, bench blocks. Now, this one is 1911 specific. That's a particular type of handgun. However, it can cover a lot of things. It's got pretty traditional grooves, holes, slots. Backside has bigger cutouts where you can put things in. They're designed to be non-marring. If you don't get any metal stuck into it or any grit from like sandpaper, the nylon is soft enough that you can put a slide or another gun part on it and then work with it without worrying that the surface is going to damage your material. Very handy. If you've got a particular firearm that you're working on a lot, see if there's one specific to it. There are very handy little tweaks they have. Things fit better. There's holes in just the right spot. Otherwise, just pick one you like. One's on sale. People make these. They just get a block of nylon, drill some holes, cut some slots. They're just a general handy tool to have in the shop. Third item is where this really gets going. This is falling apart. So this is the Wheeler 87 or 89, depending on which version you've got, piece gunsmithing screwdriver kit. Now, it's not just screwdrivers. There's specific tools for particular tasks that are not screwdrivers. But what you can tell is they're quarter-inch hex inserts. So you can get all sorts of different things as well. These are specific for firearms. You've got very specific slot drivers, very specific Torx, Phillips. Some of these are extremely specific to one firearm even. But they're all handy. These are not like the ones you would find in a hardware store. The flat ones are, and you're not going to be able to see this on camera, but they're hollow ground. So they don't try to torque up out of the slot as you're tightening something. They're also machined to very exact sizes to fit the screws that are used in firearms. Most of the screws in firearms are not your average hardware store sizes. They're just not, unfortunately. These are the right tools as opposed to the tools you would get at a hardware store. Try to avoid using the stuff from a hardware store. These make a huge difference, even if you buy the smaller kit. Definitely use these versus the standard tapered screwdrivers that keep trying to pop up out of the slot. Probably don't fit quite right. They're a little loose in the slot. That's how you damage screws. If you own a firearm and you do any work on it yourself, if you mount scopes, if you do anything, I highly suggest this kit. Or one like it. This is the Wheeler kit. There are others. I'm not a huge fan of the individual screwdrivers. They tend to be, unless you buy a really expensive set, pretty cheap. To go along with that, you have the Wheeler, what is this, the fat wrench? Yeah, I can never remember quite what they call it. The Wheeler fat wrench is same kind of idea. All these fit both ways. You can use all the drivers in there with this. What this is, though, is a torque wrench. You can adjust how much torque you apply. Pull out the back, turn it, and you keep going until you set the torque you want. Now the advantage of that is that you can set exactly what you need. If the manual says 18 inch-pounds on the rings for a scope, set it to 18. Or set it to 16 or 17. Get them in there, get them all lined up. Everything's secure, right? You haven't over-tightened one or under-tightened the other before you get everything lined up. And then you can just increase the torque that last little bit, cinch each one down without things shifting like they might if you torqued one to 18 and one was at 10, say. You just got it a little tight. Very handy. I use this thing constantly. It's very handy even when you don't need a specific torque. You don't want to have it loose, but you don't want to crank it down so far you risk breaking it. They have very fine threads. They tend to be small, and in a lot of the modern guns, they're aluminum. Aluminum has become very common, both as the base material that you're threading into and the screws. Aluminum is soft. It is very strong for its weight, but it is soft. So if you have aluminum and you're over tightening it, you will strip those threads. Set this properly, you don't have to worry about it. You're not going to strip those threads. You can screw it on in, get it snug, and keep going until this pops, just like a regular torque wrench does, and know, okay, that's my spot. I'm good. I don't have to keep going. And you know that they're all the same. It's never one screw, right? It's a set of screws that are supposed to be equal. This helps you keep them all equal. Now, this is not cheap. I'm not sure what they're going for these days. I think I paid about $40. The 87-piece or 89-piece kit, also not super cheap. However, they're both cheaper than a Gunsmith to fix what you screwed up because you stripped out a screw with it in the gun and you can't get it out. So, definitely worth having. That's about it. I think these are the primary tools that anybody doing any work with firearms should have. After that, it depends on what you're doing. There are specialized esoteric tools for any given task. Depending on what you're doing, you might need them, or you might not run into that. That is it. Take care, have fun, stay safe, y'all. Keep shooting. Say hi. Oof.